All right, so you sent me this little snippet about the Canary Islands, and it sounds pretty cool.
It does.
More than just a beach vacation, huh?
Yeah, I think they're promising an adventure, like you said.
Yeah.
More than just sitting on a beach somewhere.
Yeah.
It sounds like...
Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a deep dive into Spain's highest peak, Teide National Park in Tenerife.
Awesome.
Now, this place is a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much more than just a volcano, though.
Right.
We're going to uncover its incredible geology
Yeah,
and the surprisingly diverse life that thrives there.
absolutely.
Get ready for a journey to a landscape that's even been featured in some pretty big blockbuster films.
That's right. Mount Teide is really an icon of the Canary Islands.
It is.
It really showcases, like the power and beauty of this volcanic archipelago.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
You said unique volcanic landscape earlier. What makes it worthy of that UNESCO World Heritage status?
Well, the park is known for some pretty incredible geological formations.
Oh.
You can imagine towering volcanic cones,
Wow.
craters, and lava flows that have been sculpted over, millennia.
Oh, wow.
And the way that these formations interact with the light and the atmosphere, it creates this constantly changing visual spectacle.
That's so cool. It's amazing to think that such a seemingly harsh environment can support so much life.
Yeah, it is.
Over 50 endemic species of plants and animals call this place home.
It's really incredible. Just imagine, that vibrant yellow of the tide broom against that, black volcanic soil.
Right.
And then you have these splashes of color from the red and blue tajinastes on the slopes.
Wow.
And then nestled among the rocks, you'll find the delicate tide violet.
Yeah.
A true testament to how resilient nature is.
Yeah. Life really does find a way to flourish, even in unexpected places.
It really does.
What kind of animals have adapted to life on the slopes of Mount Teide?
So one really cool example is the Tenerife lizard.
Okay.
You can only find it on this island.
Really?
And it's perfectly adapted to that volcanic terrain.
That's amazing.
And then there's the bird life. You can see the blue chaffinch. That's like a real gem of the Canary Islands.
Oh.
And then you have the Berthelot's pipit, which has this really distinctive song.
Nice.
And of course, we can't forget the wild canary, adding to that kind of volcanic symphony.
I love that. Volcanic symphony. And it's not just the bigger animals.
Oh, not at all.
There's that whole hidden world invertebrate life too, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There are over 700 invertebrate species that we know about in the park.
Wow.
And many of them are unique to this environment.
Wow.
One example is the Pimelia ascendens, is this beetle.
Okay.
It's developed these really long legs just to be able to navigate that hot volcanic terrain.
Oh, wow.
It shows how life can really adapt and thrive, even in the most challenging of environments.
That's a great example of how resourceful nature can be. Speaking of finding a way, I hear Mount Teide itself even found its way onto the silver screen.
Yeah, it did. They actually used Teide National Park to depict ancient Greece in the movie Clash of the Titans.
Wow.
And that movie was a huge success, made over $500 million. And they even filmed a sequel in Tenerife.
So what else makes Tenerife such a popular spot for filmmakers besides the iconic Mount Teide?
Well, the island has an incredible variety of landscapes.
Right.
You can go from these arid deserts to lush forests, from those black volcanic beaches to, the snow-capped peaks of Teide.
Yeah.
And you can do that all within a pretty short distance.
That's amazing. What a diverse range of locations.
Oh, and I can't forget the unique mix of modern and traditional architecture.
Oh, yeah.
It's really a visual feast. You can transport viewers to different worlds without ever having to leave Tenerife.
It sounds like a filmmaker's dream come true.
Okay, it really is.
So we've talked about the incredible geology, the biodiversity, and even this Hollywood connection. But for those of us who aren't big budget filmmakers, what's it actually like to visit Teide National Park?
Well, there's really something for everyone.
Yeah.
Whether you're a hardcore hiker or prefer a more relaxed experience, if you're feeling adventurous, you can explore the many hiking trails that crisscross the park,
Yeah.
You'll walk through those incredible volcanic landscapes, past all that unique plant life,
Yeah.
and it just offers some breathtaking views.
I'm really intrigued by that cable car that goes almost all the way to the top of Mount Teide.
Oh, yeah.
What's the view like from up there?
Well, the cable car ride gives you this incredible view of the volcano.
Yeah.
On a clear day, you can see the entire Canary archipelago.
Wow.
Just imagine standing almost at the peak, with this dramatic volcanic landscape all around you, and then you look down and you can see all these islands spread out beneath you.
That sounds incredible. But there's also a deeper cultural significance to this place, too.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Teide National Park isn't just a tourist attraction. It's really woven into the cultural identity of the Canary Islands.
Yeah.
And for the indigenous Guanches, the original inhabitants of Tenerife, Mount Teide was considered sacred, a dwelling place of gods and this incredible source of power.
So there's like a spiritual element to the history of this place.
Yeah, definitely. And that reverence for the mountain has really resonated through the centuries, shaping the traditions, the stories, and the art of the people who call Tenerife home.
It's amazing how the landscape can really shape cultural identity and create that sense of belonging, isn't it?
It really is. Teide National Park is like a testament to that profound connection between nature, culture, and human experience.
Well, we've already covered so much today, from the volcanic origins of Mount Teide to the biodiversity that flourishes here.
Yeah.
We even touched on the park's Hollywood fame. But this is just the beginning of our deep dive into Teide National Park. So stay tuned as we uncover even more about this incredible place.
We were just talking about how culturally important Teide National Park is.
Yeah.
And, that human connection brings us to a really important topic, conservation.
Protecting such a unique environment must be really challenging.
It is. There are a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
Managing a site with such diverse landscapes,
Right.
fragile ecosystems,
Yeah,
we have to think about the impact of tourism,
of course.
the spread of invasive species,
Right.
and then there's climate change, which is always a challenge.
Yeah, let's break those down.
Okay.
How does tourism impact the park?
Well, the park gets millions of visitors every year,
Wow.
which is great for the local economy,
Yeah,
but it does put a strain on the environment.
right.
All that foot traffic can erode the trails. Vehicle emissions contribute to air pollution.
Yeah.
And even things that seem small, like littering, can really disrupt the ecosystem.
It's like a reminder that all our actions, even the ones that seem tiny, can have a big impact.
Exactly.
What about invasive species?
Yeah.
How do they threaten the native plants and animals?
They're a big problem because they compete with the native species for resources.
Okay.
They disrupt the food chain and they change the habitats. For example, some grasses that have been introduced can increase the risk of wildfires,
Oh, wow.
which is a huge threat to those slow-growing endemic species.
So it's a double challenge,
Right.
Protecting what's already there
Yeah,
and preventing new threats from coming in.
exactly.
And then, of course, we can't forget about climate change. How is that impacting this high-altitude environment?
Well, climate change is global, but the effects are local.
Right.
In Teide National Park, we're seeing changes in temperature and rain patterns.
Yeah.
And those changes can affect everything. The flowering times of plants, the breeding cycles of animals.
Oh, wow.
And there's also the risk of more extreme weather, like droughts or big storms, which could really upset that balance of the ecosystem.
So it's a complex problem with lots of different factors.
It is.
What are people doing to protect Teide National Park?
The park authorities are doing a lot.
Okay.
They've got strict rules to control how many people can visit and to encourage sustainable tourism. They're trying to stop invasive species from getting in,
Yeah.
and they're always doing research and monitoring to track the changes in the environment.
So it's a proactive approach.
Definitely.
Can you give us some examples of these efforts in action?
Sure. One example is restoring areas of the park that have been damaged.
Okay.
They remove invasive plants and replant native vegetation.
That's great.
They're also working on the trails to reduce erosion and minimize the impact of all the visitors.
What about educating visitors about conservation?
Oh, that's so important.
Yeah.
The park has this great visitor center
Okay.
where you can learn about the park's geology, biodiversity, and why conservation is so important.
That makes sense.
They have guided tours and educational programs
that's cool.
to help people really understand the value of this amazing place and how to take care of it.
So it's not just about rules.
Yeah.
It's about helping people care.
Exactly. The key to successful conservation is getting people involved, making them care about the environment, and giving them the power to make a difference.
It's encouraging to see everyone working so hard to protect this place for future generations.
It is.
You mentioned earlier that the indigenous Guanches saw Mount Teide as a sacred mountain.
Uh-huh.
I'd love to hear more about what this place meant to them culturally and spiritually.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating part of Teide's history.
Yeah.
The Guanches had such deep reverence for this volcano.
I mean, living in the shadow of something so majestic.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine not feeling a sense of awe.
I know. And for them, that awe turned into this rich mythology around Mount Teide.
Really?
They believed the volcano was the home of Guayota,
Okay.
the god of evil.
Oh, wow, a god of evil.
Yeah.
Now, that's a story I want to hear more about.
So the legend goes that Guayota kidnapped Magic, who was the god of light and sun, and he trapped him inside the volcano.
Oh, no.
And that plunged the world into darkness.
Whoa.
The people prayed to Akamon, their supreme god,
Okay.
and he finally defeated Guayota, freed Magic 8, and plugged the crater with Guayota trapped inside.
What a dramatic story.
Yeah,
So the volcano became a symbol of this battle between good and evil.
exactly. And the story doesn't end there. They believed that Guayota would sometimes try to escape,
Uh-huh.
and that's what caused eruptions and earthquakes.
I bet that was terrifying,
Oh yeah, and awe-inspiring.
for sure.
Yeah.
It's amazing how these myths and legends shape their understanding of the world around them.
It is. It shows how they saw the landscape as something alive, powerful, and completely connected to their lives.
That's beautifully put. And even though Guanche culture isn't dominant in Tenerife anymore,
Right.
these stories still resonate.
They do.
It adds another dimension to this already incredible place.
It really does. It's this mix of scientific wonder and cultural importance that makes Teide National Park so captivating, a place that enriches your experience.
We've covered so much ground already,
Uh-huh.
from Mount Teide's volcanic origins to the incredible diversity of life that's found here. And we even explored those conservation efforts, working to protect this natural treasure. We even went into the world of Guanche mythology, uncovering the fascinating stories that have been woven into this landscape for centuries.
And we've only scratched the surface.
Oh, yeah.
Teide National Park is one of those places that just reveals new wonders every time you visit.
Absolutely.
Inspiring awe, curiosity, and a deeper connection to nature.
That's what makes this deep dive so rewarding. It's not just about learning facts.
No.
It's about sparking curiosity and encouraging exploration, both within the park and within ourselves.
I agree. The journey is just as important as the destination. And Teide National Park is a destination that offers a lifetime of exploration.
I'm ready to continue that journey. We've explored the cultural and spiritual side of Teide.
Yeah.
And now I want to know more about the practical side of visiting.
Okay.
What advice would you give someone who's planning a trip to Teide National Park?
It definitely is. Teide National Park is a place that brings out the adventurer in all of us.
Yeah.
If you're planning a trip, I think the best time to go is
Yeah.
spring or fall, the shoulder seasons. The temperatures are more pleasant then, and it's less crowded than in the summer.
That's good to know. So once you're on the island, what's the best way to get to the park?
The easiest way is to rent a car.
Okay.
That gives you the freedom to explore at your own pace and get to some of those more remote spots.
Right.
There are organized bus tours,
Yeah.
but they don't give you as much flexibility.
Taking a road trip through a volcanic wonderland? That sounds pretty amazing.
It is.
We've already talked about the cable car.
Yeah.
What else should people add to their Teide National Park bucket list?
You have to see the Roque de Garcia.
Okay.
They're these incredible rock formations that have been shaped by erosion over millions of years.
Wow.
They offer just stunning views.
Yeah.
A photographer's dream.
Are those the ones that kind of look like giant fingers reaching up to the sky?
Yes,
I've seen pictures. They're amazing.
they are, especially at sunset when the light hits them just right.
Wow.
And speaking of sunsets,
Yeah.
you can't miss the stargazing opportunities in Teide National Park.
Oh, yeah. Stargazing in a volcanic landscape?
Yeah.
That does sound pretty unique.
It is. Because it's so high up and the skies are so clear, Teide is considered one of the best places in the world for stargazing.
Wow.
You can join a tour or just find your own quiet spot
Right.
and just look up at the Milky Way stretching across the sky.
I can only imagine how incredible that would be to see the Milky Way from a place like that.
It's amazing.
Now, we talked about hiking earlier. Are there any trails you'd recommend?
Oh yeah, there are trails for everyone.
Okay.
No matter what your fitness level is,
Right.
from short walks to some pretty tough climbs.
Right.
If you're just starting out, I recommend the Sendero de los Sentidos.
What does that mean?
It means the path of the senses.
Oh, I love that.
It's a short loop through a pine forest with beautiful views.
Yeah, the senses. What a great name.
Yeah, and if you're looking for a challenge,
Yeah.
you can climb to the summit of Mount Teide.
Oh, wow.
It's a tough hike.
Yeah.
And you need a permit to go all the way to the top. But the views from there are breathtaking.
Duly noted. Okay, so we've got the must-see spots and the hiking recommendations.
Uh-huh.
Any other insider tips for making the most of a Tide adventure?
Be sure to dress in layers.
Okay,
The temperatures can change a lot throughout the day, especially when you're higher up.
right.
Bring plenty of water and snacks.
Hmm.
There aren't that many places to buy things in the park.
Okay, good to know.
And of course, don't forget your camera. You'll definitely want to capture all those incredible views.
Great advice. As we're wrapping up our deep dive into Teide National Park,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
I think what makes Teide National Park so special is that there's truly something for everyone.
Yeah.
If you love nature, if you're interested in geology, if you love taking pictures, if you're a history buff, or if you just love adventure,
Right.
Teide has something for you. It's a place that reminds us of how powerful nature is, how beautiful our planet is, and how important it is to protect these places.
I think for me, what stands out is this theme of unexpected discovery.
Yeah.
We started by thinking about a volcano,
Mm-hmm.
but we've discovered so much more than that.
We have.
A place where life thrives in surprising ways. A cultural touchstone, a place for adventure, and a window to the stars.
It really is amazing.
It just shows that there's always something new to learn and explore, even in places we think we know.
That's a great way to put it. Teide National Park challenges us, changes our perspective, and invites us to be amazed by what we find.
It reminds us that the most rewarding journeys often take us to unexpected places. So to our listeners,
Yeah.
we encourage you to embrace your curiosity, find new experiences, and maybe even embark on your own deep dive into the wonders that await.
Wherever they may be.
Until next time, keep exploring.
Thank you.